Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of ILLflips. I'm Jordan Brown from ILLstrips. Today we're going to be taking a look at an order I received from Too Many Comics magazines. You can find him at Too Many Comics magazines on Instagram. And he is a dealer of European magazines, a lot of French stuff, Spanish stuff, Italian stuff. And I got a nice little selection of them, built up a bit of a cart for a while, and ordered just before my birthday. So it's kind of a birthday haul. So without further ado, I might just start with the Plexus magazines, these little square guys in the middle. And these are lovely. They're it's kind of perfect bound, square shape, beautiful cover illustrations. This is a bi-monthly magazine produced in France that ran from 1966 to 1970. And there were 36 issues. All have these very elaborate and quite idiosyncratic covers, very collectible, and I wouldn't mind completing a run of these because every cover is really nice. It was created by Jacques Sternberg. He was the editor, and also Jacques Berger, who was the creator of a predecessor called Planet, which was a magazine more focused on fantastic realism. So I wouldn't mind scooping up a couple of those also. But these Plexus magazines are more focused on art, some articles about philosophy, history, science fiction. So let's have a look at this one. This is number 3, and it has this beautiful cover illustration of a lion and a lady wading in the sea. Haven't gone and figured out the names of the cover artists, which is probably bad on my behalf, but I might do a longer video on these when I do get my hands on a few more, because I actually have ordered a few more of these. Honesty Blaze. Is that Picasso? Yeah, so just, yeah, there he is. A whole bunch of stuff about art, just probably what was going on. A good insight into probably French culture during the late 60s, early 70s. Let's do a little flip from the back. Really nice colors throughout. Also, some of the pages are kind of a light pink, almost a bit of a mango Garo magazine feel, with that pink and sometimes purple color. This elephant seems to be a bit of a reoccurring motif throughout the pages of Plexus. And there's a lot of photography, a lot of nudity, models from the time, some drawings that also looks like Picasso a little bit. And there are some comic strips. Here's your elephant again. And some really nice, interesting art throughout these. Some really vibrant orange photography. I'm working on a new project which is set in the late 60s in Paris. I won't say too much more about it, but these are pretty ideal for a lot of the reference I want to channel into that project. Even the old cars, you have some Citroen Dolly and Citroen kind of SM. This seems to be a James Bond style strip called Jazz Bond Party. And if you can read French, there's obviously a lot more to take out of these. But I was surprised by the size of these when I saw them photographed. I didn't really think too much of the size, and the little square shape of them is really nice and cute. And I think they would look pretty nice if you completed the run. Stuck them on a shelf. This is number 23. This kind of reminded me of the work of like Guy Pilaert, The guy who did Pravda and Jodel. It's got the kind of repetition pop art feel. Let's see our back cover. This one seems to have more blue pages, which I like. I like the way it kind of changes up the color palette throughout. Breaks it all up a bit. Is this Senpai? So it says like designer of the month, artist of the month. No, Jacqueline. So there's a spotlight on artists of the time. So yeah, they're pretty great. I'm getting quite a mix of art. And as I mentioned, just a real snapshot of a time in Paris or France throughout. And if you are working on a project set in France around this time, they're kind of ideal because there's a lot to be inspired by and to swipe. I like this kind of grainy, almost like a spatter effect, but very white, like, you know, they're just obviously using some frisket or something to mask everything around these shapes, and it just gives a really nice effect. These are really cool. I like the colors. Got some old demonic art from Florence. There's quite a bit of older stuff too that I don't know really why it's been printed in these pages, but this is Le Diable. And then I think the Planet magazine, its predecessor, is pretty much, I think it's the same shape also. And each of those covers has sort of a photograph of a stone face, I believe. This almost looks like Georges Picard, but I don't think it is. Nice little illustrations though. Oh, it's not Georges Picard, this is cool. And then just one more of these. This artist reoccurs maybe 3 or 4 times on the run. This is October 1969, number 28. And really nice stuff. Very bizarre, almost H.R. Giger. Like these living, breathing hairstyles, clothing, almost like fungus people. He warned me actually, Cyprian, who runs too many Comix magazines, they're glued at the spine, so that's never really good over time because the glue will dry out and they'll start to fall apart, but these seem okay. It's a little bit more of that artist from the previous one. Frank Lipsink, Pierre Carbone. Very similar. I'm not sure if this is saying that they're the illustrators or if it's referring to something else. No, I don't know what's going on there. Definitely all looks like the same artist. Yeah, it's mostly articles throughout. Splashed in with some older artwork and photography. Some nice little illustrations, cartoons. Little snapshot of some characters wandering around Paris at the time, perhaps. It's interesting. So this must be a little science fiction story, maybe. The pink backgrounds on these photographs really gives them something extra. It's pretty funky. It's really vibrant magenta there. William Burroughs. And here's your cover illustrator again. Let me see if I can find their name before we flip through these. Could be Rimbaud. That could be the title, I'm not too sure. But have a look at this work. They're these kind of living, breathing plant humans. It's really amazing work. Quite Giger-esque, but with more fashion to it. Some Medusa. Look at her feet. Kind of gremlin feet. A big head of octopus tentacles. Really cool drapery on the clothing. So, let me see. Gilles Rimbaud, I think. Gilles Rimbaud. Need to look into that person more. Got some Maserati Ghibli. Maybe a reference to where Miyazaki got the name Studio Ghibli, who knows? I know that he just pulled it from something he saw that he liked the name from. Doesn't really have a huge meaning, Studio Ghibli. Maybe it's from that car. Stingray. So yeah, I mean, if I was doing a comic set in Paris, there's lots of beautiful cars to draw. Probably the nicest time for cars ever. Late 60s, early 70s, French cars, European, Italian, German cars. Little strip here. Rimbaud, okay. That's the big takeaway from Plexus number 28. This is just a small digest size adult bande dessinée cauchemar, which I think is some sort of like disease or a demon that like disrupts your sleep in French. I think it's pronounced cauchemar. Anyway, I just really like the cover. I thought it was cool, something maybe to swipe, just because it almost looks like, I don't know, again, this lady looks like organic almost. Look at her hair. Almost just like she's made of plants, or I don't know. But I like the composition with this disc. Almost looks like a vinyl record in the middle of this machine they're operating. It looks like they're surveying a prison, an island prison. Anyway, a lot to let the imagination go wild with here. She looks like she's getting off on the scenario. Maybe she's getting a little hot from checking out these prisoners. Anyway, there's a lot to think about. And also the women, they have this very pale color. It's not a flesh color, it's like almost corpse-like. So that was interesting. And then they will have a couple of reoccurring stories throughout. I think, yeah, the glue on this again. I'm not going to bend the cover too far back. But just black and white art. Fairly pulpy stuff. Bit of crime. Erotic. Little comics throughout, yeah. It's more or less the same kind of stuff each time with these. But there's so many of these. Like I've been to like a couple of bande dessinée stores in Paris, and sometimes they'll have stacks of these, and they've got great covers. And to be fair, they've got interesting art throughout most of them. There's a book I bought, I had it at hand last year. I bought this in Paris, in Montmartre, and this is a bande dessinée adult. It's just a collection of covers from this era. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if that one is even in there. But yeah, there's a couple of tropes. There's like monsters, there's Nazis, there's like you'll get like these celebrities of the time drawn on the front as Brando, and then usually, unfortunately, some woman being tortured or something on the front. This is a pretty cool one. This is Rouge Sang Red Blood, which is the cover illustration. That's what kind of made me pick it up. I thought it was a pretty interesting cover. Got some kind of Rambo. So yeah, just it pulls from probably whatever's happening in the culture at the time, and does some, I suppose, exploitation comics. This is a pretty hefty book. It's a good book. Just a lot of artwork throughout. And then in another video I went through a lot of these Air Comprimé, which was a 80s French magazine, a little bit like Métal Hurlant, but with more of a Warren publishing feel, and probably a lot of crossover from the Warren publishing magazines, and they're mostly Spanish, Italian, French artists. I don't think I'm going to do, I got quite a few more of these. They've got great covers. I'm not going to do a full flip through of all these right now. I might do a part 2 to the original Air Comprimé. Check out the first part if you haven't watched it. But I might go through the interiors of these. Could do a quick little flip through of the covers though, because the covers are great. Really nice colors, nice pinks in the titles. And just they complement the cover illustration very well. Always the title, I kind of like that. This is pretty cool. This just straight on head and this crazy space mask. Again, kind of like Eager vibes. And you know, lots of like Frazetta style compositions, ladies, monsters. It's pretty cool. Some almost lightsabers and cavemen battles. I've seen this guy pop up a few times on the covers. Again, I mean, just if you saw these in the newsagent or the magazine shop, wherever you're picking up comics in the 1980s, and you saw these covers, I think you'd be pretty drawn to them. I would be anyway. And just a little snapshot of what's inside if you haven't seen it. It's a lot of just black and white sci-fi comics, and also some really beautiful color. It's probably 16 pages of color, the rest black and white. It's kind of usually how it runs. This is a great cover. Again, really nice colors. Nice greens and blues, turquoise, and then this pink title. kind of a Planet of the Apes looking dude. This is by Boris. And it says 79. I think they're, if I remember it, it's all 80s stuff. Maybe 79 to 86 or something. Bit of Corbin in there. That'd be the Warren Publishing crossover, I suppose. I think this is the Luis Royo cover, El Royo. We've looked at a couple of his other covers. Really amazing artist. I think a lot of his work was almost used for stuff like video game cartridge art. And here's one of his other covers. Equally as badass. Yeah, he's really pretty great at creating just this dystopian, all these robots, buildings, vehicles, and then just all just shimmers. Really nicely, all the metal weapons. Very cool. So yeah, I might do a deeper dive on those on another episode. But yeah, I had to pick up a couple more of those after my last time. This is Zona 84. Again, I think it's this is a Spanish magazine, but with a bit of a Warren Publishing crossover. Obviously, if you're Corbin, Penis Monsters here on the front. This is from Bodyssey, or Pilgore. So yeah, you have Jeff Jones, Fernando Fernandez, Carlos Trillo, John M. Burns, and then Jordi Bernay. And actually, so there's 1984, the sci-fi magazine from the States by Warren Publishing, and this is the Spanish version basically. And I was reading that this began in 84, but 1984 the American magazine began in 1970 something or another. I can't remember. Let me think. Sometime in the 1970s. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the George Orwell estate in 1990 demanded that they would change the name. So they changed the name of the magazine in 1994 by the request of the Orwell estate. Here's Hugo Pratt. Here's your Pilgore, Bodyssey, Richard Corbin. A bit of Jeff Jones. This is a cool comic. It's pretty bonkers, and I think it's hard enough to pick up in English. I have a French version of it. It's just yeah. It's called Bodyssey. Just an adventure of a dude going across some strange, ancient, alien landscape. A lot of funny panels with subliminal messaging, I suppose. Not that subliminal. This is your V-Mora. Pradas. There's probably quite a few Spanish artists in here. It's kind of cool that they did that though, so there's like just these different versions of Warren Publishing magazines in France and Spain, and you have a few of the American artists, but then you have a nice little talent list of the artists from Spain and France. And probably not your, like, you know, they're not going to, some of these guys I haven't seen in Metal or long, so they're probably more on the, maybe the B team, or they're coming a little later, inspired by Metal or long. other such magazines of the time. Here's an article on Joe Kubert, probably about his school. Yeah. This guy's amazing, Fernando Fernandez. He pops up in Air Comprimé quite a bit. Really lovely colour work. And this was your John M. Burns. And here's some Jordi Bernet and Carlos Trillo. Custer. Carlos Trillo did a lot of work with Eduardo Risso. And I'd like to do an episode on Eduardo Risso. I don't think he's talked about enough. And he's definitely, I think he's one of the best comic book artists to do it over the last 20 years. I really like his work. So it'd be cool to do an episode on him. He would have done 100 Bullets. That was his big one with Brian Azzarello. But he's got a lot of other work, a lot of Spanish work that hasn't been translated. He's from Argentina, so I don't think he speaks very good English, Eduardo Russo. But a lot of his work hasn't been translated. But there's some good stuff. Marino Casseri. Sorry, I'm butchering these names. These puddles here. It's pretty cool. Dude, parachuting off. Well, kind of looks like the World Trade Center. This is Horatio Atluna. He also pops up in Air Comprimé. Also really good. And really nice colours. This is like got a bit of a Blade Runner feel to it. There's 1984, the magazine that it takes its name from. It's a collection of 1984s. Great cover though. What's next? There's a couple of Kiss magazines, Kiss Comics, also a Spanish adults erotic comic. Pretty long run. I think there was like 230 issues or something, 240 issues. It was reprinted in French. This is Kevin Taylor on the covers. I thought the covers were pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of an Eros Comics type deal. A lot of sexy stories. Quite a few different artists and porn. Probably Milo Manara throughout the pages. Yeah, it's what you seek out, what you get kind of stuff. Just a lot of kinky comics. But I mean, you saw the covers. Sounds like a manga on here. Hentai shit. Different style, this one to these other two, kind of using harder lines to define his drawing. Some cool art in them though. This looks like Frazetta girls. And I think this is Kevin Taylor doing comics in here. Some demonic sexy shit. Martita. Some non-action. I think this issue's from the 90s. Yeah, it doesn't bury the lead. It's got a 90s kind of feel to it. Glossy. And I got one more of these. I think there's a little bit of Mobius in one of these, if I remember correctly. Mobius is erotic stuff that he did with Jodorowsky. Here's your Frank Thorne. I think. Yeah. There's really some movies in here. Oh yeah. So Mobius did that Angel Claw collection. Well, it came out as Angel Claw. Just these kind of weird erotic images with, I guess, Jodorowsky's guidance. There is some text in them too, but just a little small sampling of that there. Interesting Mobius though. And I guess we can end on something a little bit more light-hearted. This is La Semaine de Suzette. This was a magazine. It's almost like a little newspaper, but they're very thin, sparse. It began in 1909 and was aimed at conservative middle-class Catholic French girls. So it is for girls, apparently, this magazine. But these issues are from the 50s and they have George Pickard covers, which I really liked. So let's have a look. Really nice colors on the front of these. This one's beautiful with the girl looking up to the moon with her telescope. Lovely colors. I think there's some Pickard comics within. Not this one. I'd like to do an episode on Pickard too. He's got a lot of different styles and a lot of comics under his belt. Here he is, in color. Check that out. Kind of Jetsons stuff, but it's really nice. He did Borneo Joe, Paulette. He did that Odyssey story that was in heavy metal. Loads of different stuff, but he's really good. And he's got a pretty rich history in French comics. So it'd be nice to do an episode on him. And yeah, they have these ones obviously have a very 50s feel to them, which is kind of interesting to me. This is a great cover. Very suggestive. Got some fumetti. And here's the little strip to accompany the cover. Little sci-fi story. Going into space. Let's have a look at this. Very kind of pretty comics. And yeah, aimed at young Catholic conservative French girls. In the early 1900s, so maybe not so much anymore, but it's more pick-art on the back. Yeah, he had a few different styles too. He's got this kind of quite comic strip, quite caricature, kind of almost New Yorker style comic gags. And he's got several styles for that, and then he's got a much more illustrative kind of erotic style for stuff like Paulette and Borneo Joe. I think he's pretty good at colour too. This one's also a beautiful cover. This looks like the cover to like you know, a young adult group of girls mystery detective comic or something. Miss Mimi. This is from May 1956. Yeah, look at that. It's a pretty nice spread. Yeah, it's like children's illustration. Got some games here. And a little strip on the back. Oh no. And this is by Sebastian. Let me see the last one that we looked at. I'm pretty sure that was pick-art. That's by Sebastian too. You have pick-art eyes on this lady. Okay. And then there's just one more of these. Got a mermaid. Little nutcracker guy. Seems like it's story time. That sounds Christian Andersen. The centerfold strips are always pretty interesting and different looking to each other. They've got a very different layouts, just if you compare that to the last one that we saw. So there's a bit of effort and thought put into them. Yeah, they're strange artifacts, these La Semaine de Suzette. But fun to take a look at. Alrighty. So yeah, there you have it. This was an order from Too Many Comics magazines, and a nice smorgasbord of French, Italian, and other interesting European comics from the 70s, 60s, 50s, 90s. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I shall catch you in the next one. Thanks.